The barrier on the department store rooftop. This happened 3 years ago when I worked as a security guard at a department store in Tokyo. I only worked there for about 6 months before I quit. The reason for that is that I'll explain later. My primary duties included patrolling the building and monitoring the parking lot. Each floor had security cameras to prevent theft and other incidents. I usually worked the day shift, but due to a shortage of night staff, my supervisor assigned me to the night shift permanently. I didn't mind since the pay was higher. The night shift ran from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Initially, the toughest part was fighting off sleep, but I quickly adapted to the routine. After the store closed, I would patrol each floor. From 9 to 10 p.m., some store employees would stay behind to clean up, but by 10 p.m., the place was deserted. After my rounds, I could stay in the security room, watching the monitors and doing whatever I wanted, with only 2 more patrols required at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. At first, patrolling the dark, empty store was terrifying, but after nearly 6 months, I got used to it. Then, a temporary worker named Sato joined the night shift. With 3 of us on duty, I was assigned to train Sato, accompanying him on patrols and teaching him the ropes. Sato was diligent, learned quickly, soon able to work independently. However, Sato soon encountered a terrifying incident. That night, it was Sato, Yamamoto, and me on duty. Yamamoto and I stayed in the security room, with Yamamoto falling asleep quickly. Sato went out on patrol alone. I sipped my coffee, occasionally glancing at the monitors to check on him. The department store had 9 floors, but the 9th floor only housed an old warehouse and a door to the rooftop. We usually took the elevator from the 8th floor back to the security room on the 1st floor. But that night, I saw Sato on the monitor, staring at the stairs leading to the 9th floor. I immediately contacted Sato through the intercom, asking what was wrong. Sato, still staring at the stairs, muttered, "What is that?" Before he could finish, the intercom picked up the sound of the elevator arriving at the floor. I checked the other monitors and saw the large service elevator next to the stairs opening on the 8th floor, its fluorescent lights illuminating the floor. The store had both customer and service elevators. The customer elevators only went up to the 8th floor, while the service elevator could reach the 9th floor, which we rarely used. That night, the service elevator opened inexplicably. I felt a surge of unease. I told Sato to return immediately, but he needed to respond more clearly. He mumbled something unintelligible through the intercom, mixed with static. Entranced by something, he stepped into the service elevator. Sensing something was very wrong, I woke Yamamoto. At first, he rubbed his eyes indifferently, but when I mentioned Sato was on the 9th floor, his expression changed instantly. He glanced at the wall clock, which read 1:58 a.m., then switched on the 9th floor camera. I only learned that night that there was a camera on the 9th floor. The monitor showed the 9th floor, with the service elevator and stairs to the rooftop on the left. Sato stood by the stairs, his back to the camera, staring at the door to the rooftop. Yamamoto, confirming Sato's location, quickly called the supervisor. While Yamamoto was explaining the situation over the phone, the camera started shaking violently, and the image flickered. Sato began convulsing, then suddenly sprinted to the rooftop door, pounding on it forcefully. He dropped his flashlight, twisting the doorknob frantically, his body swaying erratically as if possessed. I could only watch in horror, feeling like I was trapped in a nightmare. But Yamamoto remained calm, taking notes and then grabbing the store's PA system. He set it to broadcast on the 9th floor and spoke into the microphone, calling out an unfamiliar name. "Mr. Sasaki, your family is waiting for you. Mr. Sasaki, your family is waiting." Hearing Yamamoto say such bizarre things into the mic, I thought he had gone mad like Sato. But on the monitor, Sato's wild movements slowed down. Yamamoto continued, "Namiko is dead. She is no longer here." Sato's actions ceased completely. Though I didn't understand what was happening, it seemed the situation was under control. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Sato lunged at the camera, eyes rolled back, laughing and shouting something incomprehensible. The screen went black, reflecting only Yamamoto and me, collapsed on the floor. I helped Yamamoto up, and a few minutes later, the supervisor arrived, pale-faced, accompanied by a Shinto priest and the store's vice president. After listening to Yamamoto's explanation, they hurried to the 9th floor. They warned me not to speak of that night's events. 2 days later, Yamamoto told me they found Sato crouched on the 9th floor. The priest attempted an exorcism, but failed. Sato's body was described as an empty shell, and he never regained consciousness. Sato's family received a large sum of condolence money from the store and security company, which was essentially hush money, keeping the incident out of the news and preventing any lawsuits. A month after the incident, I quit. The Sato incident was a major reason, but Yamamoto's murmured words sealed my decision. He said the priest had advised him, "You should quit soon." When I asked why, Yamamoto replied, "There were originally 2 salt piles protecting the barrier. After Sato's incident, only 1 remains. Who knows how long the barrier will hold? You should find another job before something else happens." After hearing this, I resigned immediately. The department store still stands in Tokyo's bustling district, and I wonder if the spirits on the rooftop continue to lure in unsuspecting victims. The security job. What I'm about to share happened over 20 years ago, during my time in college. It's a true story. Back then, I had just started university, but my parents' business failed, leaving me without tuition or living expenses. I was suddenly thrust into a financial crisis. Attending a private university in Tokyo meant an annual tuition of around 1.2 million yen. Despite living frugally, I needed 120,000 to 140,000 yen a month just to get by. I did the math. I needed to earn at least 200,000 to 250,000 yen per month to survive while studying. It was a daunting task. If it were more recent times, perhaps I could have earned some money through online gigs or investing in stocks. But back then, I had neither the money nor the time for such luxuries. My only option was to trade my labor for money. I began asking around, hoping to find a job that was both physically undemanding and time efficient. Finally, after much searching, an upperclassman introduced me to a night security job at a large insurance company's headquarters. The job involved working from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. on weekdays, earning 9,000 yen per night. On weekends and holidays, the shifts were 24 hours, from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. the next day, for 16,000 yen. You might think it was time-consuming and not very lucrative, but this job had a fantastic perk. I didn't need to stay awake the whole time. Once everyone left the building, I could nap until morning. There was even a shower room, saving me money on bathhouses. Weekends were even better, as only one other senior and I were on duty, taking turns every 2 hours. I could study for exams during downtime. Despite having several part-time jobs, this security gig became my main job due to its favorable conditions. However, there was one thing that bothered me. The building was rumored to be haunted. Although I didn't have any psychic sensitivity and didn't believe in ghosts, I was scared of dark places and loved watching ghost stories on TV. Despite finding them terrifying, I couldn't stop watching. 2 months into the job, I first heard about the ghost rumors from a senior colleague. He was also a student, and we bonded over our shared financial struggles. One day, he said, "Sato, don't you find this building creepy at night? Many part-timers claim to have seen ghosts here." He then shared a strange experience of his own. The building had a main wing and an annex, connected only on the first floor and basement. The security room was in the basement of the main wing. On hot summer nights, we left the door open while napping. One night, around 2 a.m., he heard the elevator in the annex repeatedly opening and closing for over 20 minutes. Initially, he thought it was the other security guard on patrol, but the next morning, the guard said he had been asleep at that time. This meant the elevator had been operating on its own in an empty building. I was creeped out, but relieved I hadn't experienced anything similar, until I did. Typically, at 11 p.m., we would lock all doors after patrolling both buildings, reopening them at 4:30 a.m. The night shift always had 2 guards, 1 senior and 1 part-time student. From 11 p.m. to 4:30 a.m., the building was supposed to be empty except for us. The other guard, a kind older man, usually volunteered to lock up, letting me rest. One night, however, he seemed uneasy when I told him there was still an employee in the annex. "Sato, I'm sorry, but I don't want to go to the annex. Can you lock up after they leave?" he asked. He hesitated, then confessed. "Someone died on the 8th floor of the annex a while back. I just can't go there." Remembering my senior's story, I asked if anything had ever happened there, but the guard wouldn't elaborate. Though uneasy, I couldn't afford to quit this job, so I carried on. A few months later, one cold winter morning, I was unlocking the doors at 4:30 a.m. The building, situated on a slope, had its main entrance on the 2nd floor, with a spiral staircase leading to the 3rd floor. I started from the top, working my way down. As I descended the stairs, the lobby came into view, dimly lit by streetlights. Glancing towards the reception desk, I froze. There, sitting at the desk, was a human figure. My heart pounded as I looked away. I knew only the old guard and I were in the building, yet I'd seen someone. Gripping the handrail, I steeled myself and looked again. The lobby was still and silent, the figure gone. I quickly unlocked the main door and retreated to the security room, my mind racing. The first cleaning staff hadn't arrived yet, confirming I'd been alone. "Sato, you did well," the old guard said, but I didn't tell him what I'd seen. He probably wouldn't have believed me anyway. After that, I continued working there, but avoided the spiral staircase. 20 years later, the insurance company went bankrupt, though the building still stands, now a government office. Hundreds of people work there daily, likely unaware of its dark past. Whenever I pass by that building, I shudder, remembering my eerie experience as a student. Night security at the supermarket. This story took place when I worked as a night security guard at a large supermarket. It's been a long time since then, and though the details are a bit hazy, the fear I felt remains vivid. One night, I was on duty with 2 senior guards. Normally, there should have been 4 of us, but one called in sick, leaving just the 3 of us. One of the senior guards, let's call him Yamada, was already asleep when our shift started. I spent the time eating ramen and watching the security monitors. As I glanced at the screens, I noticed something off in the clothing section on the second floor. The ceiling seemed to be sagging as if someone had broken in through there. The other guard, let's call him Kimura, had just returned from his rounds. I reported my findings to him, saying, "I'll go check it out," and grabbed my flashlight and walkie-talkie. In my experience, most late-night intruders were either mischievous students or petty thieves, both of whom could be dealt with using the special baton we carried, so I wasn't too worried as I headed to the second floor. The supermarket was quite large, with 2 floors. The elevators were shut down for the night, so I took the emergency stairs. When I reached the second floor, I realized the situation was worse than I had anticipated. Clothes racks were toppled, and the shutter gates were damaged. I grumbled to myself as I radioed the details to Kimura, asking him to search the security footage for any suspicious figures. While he did that, I scoured every dark corner of the floor, shouting, "We know you're here. Come out now." Oddly, there was no response. I wondered if the intruder had gone downstairs. To ensure I didn't miss them, I headed towards the first floor via the stairwell next to the escalators. The barrier marked "No Entry" beside the escalator had been knocked over. As I descended to the first floor, I found bookshelves overturned. I was standing there, stunned by the mess, when a loud bang came from the fish section. Almost simultaneously, my walkie-talkie crackled with the frantic voices of my colleagues. "Hey, hey! This intruder isn't just any thief." "What do you mean?" I asked. Kimura explained. "The security footage shows a weird guy doing strange things. One moment he's waving his arms. The next, he's crawling on the floor. He seems dangerous. He just ran into the kitchen area. I've called the police. Be careful." I acknowledged the warning and understood that the intruder was probably a madman. I turned on more lights as I jogged to the kitchen. "Whoever you are, the police are coming. Show yourself," I shouted, but still no answer. I searched the kitchen thoroughly, finding nothing. Kimura and Yamada had said he was there just moments ago. Perplexed, I was about to radio in when the walkie-talkie erupted again, this time with sharper voices. "You hear us? Just now, were you banging on the door?" "No, I'm still in the kitchen," I replied. To prove I wasn't playing a prank, I stepped out and waved at the nearest security camera. Oh no. So the guy knocking on the security room door is... I couldn't believe it. An intruder was banging on the security room door, even growling. I rushed back to the security room and observed from a hiding spot nearby. It was too dark to see clearly, but I could hear the loud knocking and the man's low, menacing growls. Kimura's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie again. "This guy is dangerous. Hide. The police will be here soon." To avoid detection, I climbed to the second floor and crouched in the shadows. A few minutes later, my fears were confirmed. The madman had followed me. He was making strange noises, looking around for me. I could see him under the emergency lights, wearing pajamas. He was gone, but his legs seemed unusually muscular. He circled the area, not finding me, then headed back downstairs. I wanted to make a run for the security room, but he was fast. If he saw me, he'd catch me before I got there. Then Yamada came up with an idea. "Turn your walkie-talkie to full volume and leave it somewhere. I'll make a loud call in a minute to distract him. You use that chance to get back to the security room." It was a tactic straight out of a video game, but it sounded like it might work. I placed the walkie-talkie in the middle of the stationery section and hid near the stairs. I signaled the camera, letting them know I was ready. Suddenly, I heard furious growling. The madman was near the cash registers, swinging his arms wildly. In seconds, he would be on top of me. I held my breath, trying to be invisible. The madman approached, and I could hear my heart pounding. Then, Yamada's voice boomed from the walkie-talkie. The intruder spun around and dashed towards the stationery section. I saw his face clearly for the first time. His pupils were unnaturally large, and his expression was terrifying. As soon as he moved away, I sprinted to the security room. The door was badly dented from his pounding. I banged on it desperately, and Yamada pulled me in just in time. Once inside, I broke down in tears. The man kept attacking the door, and we were all on edge, fearing he would break through. Then, suddenly, the banging stopped, and silence fell. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived. Despite searching thoroughly, they never found the man. To this day, we have no idea who he was. Looking back, I believe he did see me that night, but chose to let me go. Why he did, I'll never know. Video, feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure to ring the notification bell for future updates.